It's terribly sad that some animals go extinct. More and more species are dying off every week, and it's super depressing and super bad for the environment.
It's surreal.
Having said that, there are some animals that are so scary, so terrifying that, as horrible as this may sound, it's actually kinda good for us humans that they did go extinct. These are nightmarish animals you will be happy are extinct. Number 15. HELICOPRION shark. A lot of people are scared of sharks, and a lot of people are afraid of buzzsaws, which is fair as both can do quite a bit of damage. So what did Mother Nature do? Well, she combined both of them. Boy, we're pleased this combination no longer exists. The HELICOPRION shark, as it was once known, was a holocephalid fish that had tooth whorls. This meant their teeth were arranged in spiral clusters set in their skull. Scientists may never know exactly how the teeth were set in place, but there's every reason to believe they could inflict some serious damage.
Helicoprion is like no other shark in the world ever.
This type of shark existed around 290 million years ago in North America, Eastern Europe, Asia, and Australia. While there are no full fossils available to paint an accurate picture of this shark, there is enough data to paint some pretty specific ideas. For example, a tooth found in Idaho belonging to a helicoprion was 18 inches long. That meant that its owner would have been at least 33 feet long. Another, measuring 24 inches, put the owner at about 39 feet long. Who knows, they may have even been babies. We're just pleased they're not around for us to know for sure. Like this video, smash the subscribe button and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face when you're sleeping. Now, it's time for the odd topic. When it comes to terrifying animals that you'll be glad are extinct, surely the most obvious is dinosaurs. But as much as you might like to think bringing dinosaurs back would be fun, the reality would be far less the Flintstones and far more Jurassic Park. Just imagine how much tougher life would be if we had to share the planet with colossal dinos. Paying your taxes and bills would no longer be the biggest worry in your mind. Not getting eaten by a T-Rex would be. This image, showing a colossal animatronic T-Rex being carried away, gives an interesting insight into the practicalities and administration that would be involved in trying to deal with dinosaurs if we had to share our world with them. What do you think of this image? If dinosaurs were around and there were jobs in the business of controlling them, would you be up for it? Would you have the strength and confidence required to tie one down like this if you had to? Comment down below with the hashtag #OddTopic and let us know your opinion in relation to what we just showed on screen. With that said, let's keep things moving. Number 14. TITANOBOA. The TITANOBOA could have been the creature of your worst nightmares, but thanks to its extinction, something less scary, like a tarantula or boa constrictor, takes its place in your mind. Trust us, that's better. The TITANOBOA was a 42-foot long snake that lived in northeastern Colombia. They lived during the Middle to Late Paleocene epoch, which was a 10 million year period after the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, so about 60 million years ago. If the name TITANOBOA, which means Titanic boa, is anything to go by, then you know this animal's gonna be huge. In fact, it could weigh as much as 2,500 pounds. If you don't think that's all that heavy, then think again. 2,500 pounds is about 7/10 as heavy as a car. It's about half as heavy as a rhino and 2 times heavier than a grizzly bear. Scared of horses? This snake was about 2.5 times as heavy as one. Snake lovers, even though you couldn't see this monster in its live form, you could see it in person. There used to be a full-scale replica of it at the Grand Central Terminal in New York City as a promotion for the show TITANOBOA Monster Snake in 2012. Number 13. Pentecopterus sea scorpion. Sea scorpions were scavengers and predators that inhabited the waters during the Paleozoic era. Most species were pretty dull if we're being honest. They would crawl along the sea floor, sometimes on land, and they were relatively small. They died out millions of years ago and no one really batted an eye. But there was one type of sea scorpion that has caused people to stand up and take notice. And that's the Pentecopterus sea scorpion. This type of sea scorpion existed 467.3 million years ago and was definitely nothing like its relatives. It was huge. They had 2 or more pairs of spines and could grow up to 5 feet 7 inches long. At the time of its discovery, it was one of the largest arthropods ever found. But after it was discovered, another one took that title. The Gigantopterus renania arthropod was found to grow over 8 feet tall. Studies suggest that the Pentecopterus had a narrow body and giant limbs that grasped and trapped prey. And given its size, who knows whether humans could have been on the menu. Number 12. Walking worm. The walking worm, or the walking cactus as it is also known, is definitely not an animal you would want to step on accidentally. Fortunately, it's not likely to happen since it's extinct. The scientific name for this armored labopodian is Diania cactiformis, and it was discovered by Jiani Liu from China's Northwest University. Fossils show they had a worm-like body, but one that was covered in spiny, jointed legs. These fossils also dated back to around 520 million years ago. Thanks to some pretty pristine fossils we've been able to unearth, we actually know quite a bit about this nightmarish little devil. They grow up to around 2.4 inches long with thin bodies, and they had a proboscis on their front end for feeding. The walking worm also well and truly deserved its name, for it had 10 pairs of legs that were spiny and jointed for getting around. Believe it or not, these legs are quite crucial in the greater picture. They show that arthropods and labopodians evolved. This is proved by the jointed bodies and heads of developed arthropod species today. Number 11. The DUNKLEOSTEUS. A lot of people are scared of sharks. Like, a lot. But then you ask the same people if they're scared of fish, and many of them will say no. We're giving you this one opportunity to take that back. Once you learn about the DUNKLEOSTEUS existed around 360 million years ago and, thankfully, doesn't today. It was one of the largest known sea creatures, and there was nearly nothing as powerful as it. It grew over 32 feet long and was covered in thick armor, so it was pretty safe from other animals trying to attack it. But that's not even the worst part. Not only could no other animal eat it, but it could eat pretty much anything itself. Instead of teeth in its jaw, it had sharp bones. And because of its 4-bar linkage jaw mechanism, it could open its jaw to nab prey in as little as 20 milliseconds. Once it closed its jaw, its bite force was estimated at about 1,664 pounds at the tip. That's forceful enough to cut through dermal armor. There are already enough scary creatures in the ocean, so we're pleased the DUNKLEOSTEUS is no longer one of them. Number 10. Tyrannosaurus Rex. Ask any child what their preferred dinosaur is, and 9 out of 10 would say it's the T-Rex. Okay, we haven't actually done the math on that, but we can't be too far off. But we're pretty confident that if those same kids saw this dinosaur in person, they would have a new favorite. Like maybe just an ordinary sized reptile or lizard that doesn't want to eat you for breakfast. The T-Rex was the largest of the meat-eating dinosaurs ever to live. Its 4-foot-long jaw made light work of most animals, and it had intense bone-crushing power, or so we've heard. Fossils show that the T-Rex would grow up to about 40 feet long and 20 feet tall. It also had muscular thighs, like it had completed a double leg day at the gym, and a powerful tail that helped it move. Thanks to its 5-foot skull, it also had no problems taking care of prey that was nearly as large as it. But it wasn't only the skull that helped the T-Rex be at the top of the food chain. Its teeth did a mighty fine job, too. They had serrated, conical teeth that could grip and pierce flesh before ripping it away. We're sure if their tiny forearms were a bit longer, these could have been useful for grabbing food too. Number 9. The ANOMALOCARIS. Shrimp is delicious, and the ones we see today are quite small, right? Great, let's keep it that way. Because could you imagine a giant shrimp? Now that is a thing of nightmares. The ANOMALOCARIS were huge shrimp-like creatures that lived about 500 million years ago during the Cambrian period. Their name translates to abnormal shrimp, and that's pretty accurate. While they look a lot like a shrimp, they were far, far larger. In fact, experts believe they may have grown up to around 3.3 feet long. Imagine trying to fit that in your cocktail glass. They had 11 pairs of flexible flaps on their bodies that helped to propel them through the water. These flaps sloped down to act as a kind of fin to help with its swimming. They also had a disc-like mouth called an oral cone and 2 giant appendages on the front of their face. Given their size, you can only but imagine their diet. They were definitely predators and fed on soft-bodied organisms. However, there's a bit of evidence to suggest that they may have even taste-tested the odd trilobite or two. These sea creatures aren't exactly pretty, so we're pretty happy they're extinct. Number 8. The giant short-faced bear. Gee, scientists aren't very original when they name new animals they find, are they? They see a new species of large bear with a short face and they say, oh, I know, let's call it a giant short-faced bear. So that's what we've got here, a giant short-faced bear. This bear lived throughout North America during the Pleistocene and is thought to be the largest land carnivore of the time. However, more recent studies show that this bear may have been an omnivore, taking advantage of whatever food source it could find based on where it lived. The size of these bears, while described as giant, actually differed quite a lot. That's why scientists now believe there may have been several different species, all under the one Ursidae bear family. Both males and females could grow up to 11 feet tall while standing on their hind legs, and about 5 feet at their shoulders. Females weighed between 660 and 880 pounds, while males could weigh up to a whopping 2,200 pounds. That's the weight of 2 grand pianos. Alongside having a varied diet, they also lived in all kinds of terrain. You could find them in grasslands, woodlands, tundra, forests, and nearly anywhere. So that's why we're pretty happy they're extinct. If they could live anywhere, then imagine coming home with one in your living room. Number 7. Megapiranha. Between 8 and 10 million years ago, the world rejoiced. The megapiranha was finally extinct, and the oceans all of a sudden became a much safer place. Most people today know just how terrifying a regular piranha is. They're feisty, awful, horrendous little creatures. So you can only imagine what a fish is gonna be like with a name like Megapiranha. Nothing good, that's for sure. The megapiranha lived during the late Miocene and was a 22-pound, 28-inch fish with a nasty attitude. They had double rows of zigzag teeth and a bite force of more than 1,000 pounds. If they still existed today, you would never be able to swim safely in the same bodies of water as them. If you don't believe us, then know this. The megapiranha formed part of the show River Monsters: Prehistoric Terror. On it, the host talked about their capabilities compared to the modern-day piranha. Even comparing the size of the two was like comparing chalk and cheese. The modern-day piranha is a mere fraction of the size of its prehistoric relative. We quite like our limbs, so we're pleased this fish is no longer around. Number 6. The Gigantopithecus. If you're generally quite scared of large animals, whether or not they're harmful, then you might breathe a sigh of relief when you learn about the Gigantopithecus. This genus of ape may have been quite large, but it's extinct, so there's no chance of running into one while you're out doing your shopping. The Gigantopithecus existed during the early to middle Pleistocene in southern China. Initially, they were thought to be from the human line, but further research of this 660-pound creature showed they were probably more aligned with the orangutan family. Scientists believe they grew to be as tall as 9 to 12 feet and that they were generalist herbivores. This meant that they used their mandibles and molars to grind, crush, and cut tough plants. Their teeth even had extra thick enamel, which made it suitable for roots, tubers, stems, and big family fruit. Given the size of the Gigantopithecus, they could probably hold their own quite well against predators. Still, they were no match for climate change. They lived in subtropical and tropical forests and likely went extinct about 300,000 years ago due to climate change, the retreat of their habitat, and archaic human activity. Number 5. The STETHACANTHUS. Out of all shark species, the STETHACANTHUS wasn't exactly the most notable. It lived during the late Carboniferous epoch and died out about 298.9 million years ago. It also only grew up to around 2.3 feet long, so it wasn't exactly heart attack evoking like the great white.
But it's surreal.
But that doesn't mean this shark wasn't a menace, and it was. What it lacked in size, it well and truly made up for in being that annoying little sibling of the shark family. It seemed like every feature on their body was there just to annoy other animals. The spine or ironing board-like thorn on the male's back was used to clamp to the stomachs of larger marine animals, and even for frightening away predators. It also had a pectoral fin whip, which is believed to have been used during mating. And let's not forget the teeth. These sharks had individual teeth in tooth whorls that they would use to eat small fish, brachiopods, and even other sharks. The STETHACANTHUS wasn't at the top of the food chain, but he certainly wasn't at the bottom. Number 4. ANDREWSARCHUS. The ANDREWSARCHUS is not your everyday extinct animal. In fact, it's hard to even pinpoint what current-day animal it looks like. It's almost like Mother Nature took a horse, a sheep, and a goat, then stapled them all together. Even then, you don't get close to what ANDREWSARCHUS looked like. They were carnivores that were as tall as horses and weighed nearly a ton. In some ways, they looked like wolves, but they didn't have claws on padded feet. No, these odd beasts had hooves. While they could take down their own dinner, they were also happy to just pick away at what other animals found. According to scientists, they would also search for carrion on beaches. They existed in Mongolia during the late Eocene era and would grow up to around 18 feet long and nearly 7 feet tall. They were definitely not animals you'd want to come across in a dark alley by yourself, that's for sure. Fortunately, these scavenging meat eaters have been extinct for a long time, but they still take the title of the largest land mammalian carnivore to have ever walked the earth. Number 3. The giant TERATORN. Did you know that around 12% of the United States population has a fear of being around birds? But if the Argentavis magnificens or giant TERATORN was still around, we'd go ahead and ramp that up to 99%. You don't just put giant in the name of an animal for no reason. The giant TERATORN was a massive flying bird that used to live about 6 million years ago during the late Miocene. Thankfully, it's not around today. And we're not exaggerating when we say massive or huge. If you were hit by one of these while it was out flying, you may even end up in a coma. They had a wingspan of up to 30 feet, and their wing area was about 87.3 feet squared. Their height was pretty terrifying too. They were as tall as 6.6 feet and weighed up to 171.6 pounds. Imagine having a close encounter with something flying through the air weighing over 170 pounds. It would be purely terrifying. We don't know much about the giant TERATORN's behavior, but we do know that they were not that great at flapping flight. Their wings were better for soaring, and they could often only fly for short bursts. Number 2. Terror birds. Phorusrhacidae, or terror birds, are definitely an animal you'll be pleased does not exist today. For if it did, we'd be spending a lot more time cowering in our homes than we already do. Terror birds were large, flightless, carnivorous apex predators that lived during the Cenozoic era in South America about 1.8 million years ago. These birds could be up to 10 feet tall, and they used to split their time between North America and South America depending on their migration patterns. However, when humans arrived, it wasn't long before they were extinct. Good riddance. These terror birds had strange necks that were divided into 3 regions. The flexible design of their neck meant that they could strike with their heavy head at great speed and with incredible power. And once you were hit in the face with their face, it was game over for you. But while they were obviously strong, they were fast too. They could run at 30 miles per hour, which meant that they could take down other fast animals like rabbits as a light snack. Even though they could probably be big game hunters, the research shows that they were more likely to dine on small animals out of convenience. Number 1. The Megalodon. It's probably of no surprise to anyone that the Megalodon is one of the most nightmarish animals that we are happy are now extinct. Not all of us are all that fond of the sharks we have now, so it's only natural that we dislike the larger, scarier, extinct ones too. The Megalodon lived around 20 million years ago and died out about 3.6 million years ago. It was that large, vicious, and mean that it dominated the oceans up until its death. They grew up to about 59 feet long and with jaws so powerful that they had bite forces of about 40,000 pounds. Scientists still regard the Megalodon as one of the most powerful and largest predators to have ever lived. They would target whales, sea turtles, and seals, and would break through their chest cavities to puncture their lungs and heart. As you can imagine, that wouldn't be an enjoyable experience to have. These sharks had a similar build to the great white, but with a blunter and wider jaw. Their fins were also quite similar, but thicker. If the Megalodon were still alive today, you wouldn't be able to escape it. They lived in Europe, Africa, Australia, and the Americas, which meant nowhere is safe. Phew, we're glad they're no longer here. Every day, we lose around 150 species. That means we lose about 10% of our wildlife every decade. But let's be fair, no one's gonna shed too many tears for a mega piranha with a whopping set of meat-eating teeth. Which animal do you wish was extinct and why? Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time!